That is obviously it is a huge need area. And so, you know, make sure that you are providing details on those budgets. The eligibility, it's a partnership comprised at a minimum of school districts, accredited non-public schools, a hospital, a nursing facility, and a related training instruction provider. And that can also be the community colleges or other qualified training providers. There are training providers out there that are online that you could utilize. You could utilize different pieces within your community and within your region. It's about collaborating and growing what you need. Obviously, you have classes within your schools that you are going to be able to utilize, your health classes, and those partnerships with the community colleges, but how does that look throughout? Our biggest goal also is to give you guys a little bit of the flexibility to create those pathways. It doesn't have to necessarily match what the Career Academy of Pella did, but it does have some of those nuances that you do need to follow, obviously, with these partnerships. So we did build in kind of that innovative and creative piece so that you have that flexibility to build it. One of the pieces that we also have are supplemental assistance. That supplemental assistance, we actually created an RFP that we are trying to acquire a license for a virtual reality software. That software will be provided to the grantees to help support the learning environments and enhance the education and practical experiences within your classrooms. And the state of Iowa will also be providing the virtual reality hardware when and if it's needed. So the use of funding, as you're creating these budgets, obviously you can use it for equipment, training materials, uniforms and PPE, transportation, to cover fees traditionally incurred by an apprentice, such as CPR, CNA, testing expenses, lab costs, and background checks, to reimburse employers for apprentices, like the earn and learn wages, instructor salaries. So if you have somebody that is going to be giving that RTI, you can help support that training cost. Administrative cost is limited to about 5%. And then you can purchase any other necessary items or equipment to implement the successful Health Care Registered Apprenticeship program. So just like any other registered apprenticeship program, you have two components with a registered apprenticeship program. You have your RTI, your related training instruction, which I've talked about a little bit already. That related training instruction can be provided in the high school. The providers, the qualified providers, it could be the community colleges or whatever other sources that you want to use to provide that RTI, and then the on-the-job training. So remember that the on-the-job training, these students are going to be hired by an employer or the hospital in collaboration with the with a long-term care facility. So they are being hired, and it is a partnership to grow this pathway. Brian, sorry, I went on too fast. Brian, do you want to talk a little bit about the grant application process for me?
Absolutely, Chris. So first off, Chris, thank you for calling me an Iowa grants expert. I am a little well versed in this, but look, we have a question that's popped up in the chat, so if we want to answer that before I get into the grant demo, we can do that. And Chris, I'll leave this to you. It says, regarding eligibility, does the applicant entity need to be the school district or any organization that's part of the partnership?
Typically, it's going to be the school district as the sponsor, with the businesses and other entities as the partners. So typically, it's where the RTI is being held and who holds those standards. So it's going to primarily be within the high schools. No problem. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
And I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. So just a quick thumbs up. Are folks seeing the iowagrants.gov site? Perfect. All right. So for sake of time, I'm going to do a quick run through of I'm trying to hold myself to 5, maybe 7 minutes at the most. I will say that as you are going into Iowa Grants, if you're unfamiliar, I'm going to show you where my contact information lives. You can always give me either a call or send me an email. If you find that you're in the system and you're just stuck, you can't find the grant or any type of those technological things, I will guide you as best I can. If I need to, again, get some backup, we will do that. So first off is how to do registration. I'm going to pretend that no one has ever registered for anything ever in their life. So the way you do this is really straightforward. It says new user registers here. So again, if you don't have an iowagrants.gov account, you would go to this link. Once you click into it, you just provide your information. So your name, your contact info, and the organization that you're representing. Once you complete your registration, that will be submitted. That will actually go to me to review your registration and then to approve you. Once I receive the notification, I go in and I check, and then I approve the folks who've completed the process correctly. I will say this, we get a lot of requesting for access. I try to get all those done the same day. Occasionally, if it comes towards the tail end of the day, it may be the next day. If more than one business day has gone by, I suggest you do one of two things. Number one, double check your spam, because you will get an email from the system saying that you've been approved. Rarely, but occasionally, those emails do get spam. So if you were to do a registration today and you don't see anything by the end of Monday, double check, make sure that that confirmation email didn't get spammed. And if you're still not seeing it, it's not gonna hurt my feelings if you send me an email. Let's go, hey, Brian, I registered. Can you double check with that, make sure I doesn't get behind. Other than that, once you get approved as a registered user of the system, how you go is this. So you're a returning user. And I'm going to log in as an applicant, so you will get a chance to see how this should look from your side of the house once you are registering in. So you have a username, you have your password, you sign in. And once you're signed in, this is what your landing page will look like. So this is your home screen. If in doubt and you get into, you're not sure what to do, if you hit main menu here, this menu and home mean the same thing. If you hit menu, it will always bring you back here. From this point, this is where you go to actually apply for the grant. Again, I'm going to pretend that none of you have ever maybe applied for a grant through the system before. So the first step in applying for the grant is actually finding the grant. Where you'll find the grant is where it says funding opportunities. By clicking funding opportunities, you're going to see a whole slew of grants that are available through our system through various entities across the state. A lot of times the best way to find the grant is to actually know the grant number and to do a word search. So you would hit Control F to bring up the find screen, and then the number of this grant, the Health Careers Grant, and I will put this in the chat as well, is 442165. So if you type in 442165, you see here in orange, this is the Health Careers Grant. To then start your application, you simply click on the name of the grant, the opportunity title, and it brings you here. So there's going to be some real valuable information from this screen that will matter to you. Number one is the application deadline date and time. So this grant closes on March 1st at 3 p.m. It also has a person you can contact if you get stuck. That is this guy. So Brian Dennis, myself, there's my phone number, there's my email address. It also contains the actual funding opportunity. And if you scroll all the way down, it has a variety of attachments that we have regarding the grant. I'll also show you where to find these once you begin your application. But this is a good place to maybe spend a little bit of time. You have the full NOFO, again, the funding request, information on the budget, how to actually register, lots of this good information if you get familiar with this part. So again, I'll show you how to find these documents once you're actually beginning a grant. But if we go all the way back to the top of this, you see I've got a couple of applications that I've gone and just tested things in the site. We're gonna do a new one just to show you how to do that process. The way you start a new application is you click Start a New Application. When you do that, it's gonna bring up a screen where it's gonna have whoever is the registered applicant. There's Brian, the name of your organization. So mine is Workforce Development for the state of Iowa. And then I'm just gonna call it the HC project, so the Health Careers Project. I'll do tests, so I know that's what it is. Okay, to remind myself. Once you name your project, hit save, and you've actually begun an application. It's that straightforward. It's pretty much that simple. If you label your project something and you realize you made an error or you want to change the name of your project, you have an edit feature here that will let you go back in to your project name and change it, okay? Once you've labeled your project, that's the first step in doing the application. Once you've done this, now you can see the full application in the various parts. The way you see the different parts is to go to application forms. Think about application forms as just the parts of the grant. By clicking that, you see the various pieces of the grant, the general information, which is just the name of your project, that is done. You see the black check mark says complete. We have information on a minority impact statement, the general information where you put information about your organization, the executive summary, and the application attachments. I'm going to go into the cover sheet for general information because that's where you're going to put a lot of the information about your project. So by clicking on this link, it asks you straightforward to tell this who is the authorized official. So this typically is the person that is completing the grant. Who would be the financial officer or the agent representing your organization? That also may be you, but it may be someone else. You can fill in that information. And the last bit down here at the bottom is just to tell us the geographic footprint of your project. So here where it says counties, you have all 99 counties in the state of Iowa, as well as a statewide option. And to simply select a county, you just click and it highlights it. Let's say you are working for a project that's going to be in more than one county. I'm just going to say that you're going to be in both Adair and Adams, just to give an example. So you would click on Adair. And if you want to add Adams, you will hold down the control key, or CTRL is what most keyboards say. Hold down the control key and click on any other county that you feel you would also be in connection with. They all light up blue. You selected them all. If you select something that you didn't mean to, if you click out and then go back in, you can just select whichever counties. The other piece is you need to select your congressional district, your Senate district, and your House district. Each of these blue links takes you to a website where you can put in the address of your organization and find out the representation of each one of those areas. I'm going to actually click into the site just to show you quickly. My computer is acting up. Am I sharing the site right now? Because my computer's doing something a little weird. Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Great.
it is.
Thank you. So my view is a little messed up, but the way you simply find it is putting in the address. So if you give this site a moment, it doesn't think as fast as probably would like, but if you give the site a moment, once you start putting in the address, it will begin to autofill as it thinks it knows where you're at. So I'm just going to put in the address for our office, which is 1000 East Grand Avenue. And as you see, as I'm starting to put things in, it's trying to figure it out. So once I get far enough, it's actually going to suggest it. So 1000 still didn't do it. There we go. 1000 East Grand Avenue. And once it puts in the address, it brings up all three of those locations. So there's our Senate district, our House district, and our congressional district. And that is what you would put here in each one of these areas. Does that make sense so far? Okay, I see some nodding. Perfect. For any part of Iowa grants, once you complete putting in information, you can hit save. So because of that, you do not have to complete your grant application in one sitting. You can definitely do pieces at a time. Just make sure that when you complete an area, you save your work. If you go to click out of a particular section, I'm sure we've all had that experience, the system will ask you, hey, you haven't saved your work. If you click out of this, you'll lose your unsaved work. So it's a prompt that you may want to save, or maybe you don't want to save, but you will get a system prompt as you're clicking out of anything that if you've made a change, that you need to save that change or it will be lost. Also, as you can see, changes may have not been saved. That's okay. I'm okay with leaving. Also, and what it shows you when you click out, it gives you what you've entered in so far. There's no information there. And the way you go back to the different pieces of the application is to always hit go to application forms. Whenever you put in anything into the system, it will always give you this edit feature. So these ribbons across the top will always be there. So if you want to edit a part of your application, once you put something in, the system will give you that option. And once you're actually in that particular section, if you want to save your changes, simply hit save. The next piece I want to show you is the attachment. So the various pieces of the grant that require you to add in some information. And then I'll show you, again, some different resources you can find once you start a grant. If you click application attachments, it's going to bring out some different sections of the grant that you basically will drop different files. So we have a part when it comes to your project narrative describing your overall project, where you list your budget. We have an Excel form that I will show you in just a moment. Any type of letters of recommendation, and the indirect cost doesn't apply to this grant. So while there's a section there, it is not required. So you can ignore that piece of the grant. Okay, that is not required as part of this project. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no indirect cost, correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. All right. So once you complete each one of the sections, it will ask you, I hit save. Once you complete each one of the sections, this is going to be here, mark as complete. So it's basically your way of tracking if you're done with that particular section. Once you mark a section that's complete, you will get a black check mark. Even if you mark it as complete and you want to go back in and edit it, you still can. I don't want anyone to think, hey, I marked that's complete, but maybe I really wasn't done and you've locked it or something. You've not done that. You just simply, it's kind of your way of knowing you've completed that information. The only way you submit something where you can't fix it is if you actually submit the grant. And the way you submit your grant application is right here, the blue submit button. Until you hit this, you can always go into your application and change and update any part of it, okay? So the last thing I wanna show you before I finish up, and feel free to ask me any questions, is where do you find the various attachments and resources that we have built into the grant and itself. So to find that, I'm gonna hit menu. And again, in this system, menu, and that's why there's a little house there. Menu and home mean the same thing. So if you hit menu, it takes you home. Once you've begun an application, let's say you work on an application today and then you come back on Monday to finish it up. You don't have to find the funding opportunity again to work on your grant. What you do is once you've begun an application, once you've named your project, you now have an application in the My Application section. So simply click My Applications. Oop, went a little too fast there. Click My Applications. And then it brings up the variety of applications that you're working on. So this is the one that we're doing here. So the Test HC project, okay? So this is the application that I created just to show you around the site. If I click on the name of the application, that takes you to your application to do work on it. And if you want to find those different attachments, You go to the same application, the healthcare one, but just move over one slot. Go to funding opportunity. Okay. So if you click on funding opportunity and scroll all the way down to the bottom, here are the various attachments. Now, unfortunately, the way the display shows up, it's not used to seeing those lovely blue underlined and bolded kind of font to show you that something actually a link that you can download, but each one of these is downloadable. Okay, so if you hover your mouse, you see how it turns into the finger point. So if you want to look at the application guidance, you can download it. You want to look on the actual full NOFO, you can click that. This is where the grant budget form lives. So you can click that, and that's where you have your budget template for you to update and then eventually upload into the system. And there are just some directions again when it comes to navigating Iowa Works. So I took a lot longer than I meant to. I just caught the time, but that's how you navigate the system. So I apologize for running long there. Chris asked me to be brief. I failed. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing. I fail a lot around Chris. I'm going to stop sharing and then open this up for any questions.
Brian, we appreciate your thorough, in-depth Iowa grant knowledge that you shared with us today. Thank you again. As always, you're a rock star. For the rest of you, we're here to support and help build the registered apprenticeship pieces that you guys need. We have business marketing specialists that can help us get through the application to become a registered apprenticeship. The main thing that we need to have is having those partners ready to go, and then we can sit down and work through the work processes. One other thing that I will make sure that we put on the grant is the work process for the CNA registered apprenticeship. We'll put that on there so that you have access to it, so that you can look at the standards and then how that would match. I was just going to give you also within that, within the grant, there are some links in there to get you out to the Pella model to get a good idea of kind of what it looked like. I was just going to briefly share that and show you, not really talk about it today, but wanted to just kind of share what that model looks like. So as you can see, you're by the end of your junior year, you're looking at the medical careers. This is the RTI components of the apprenticeship, and then this is the on-the-job pieces that go along with it. So you're looking at between your junior and senior year, 10 weeks full time, and you'll notice that patient care is 160 hours, and this gives you kind of an idea that it's happening at the long-term care certified nursing assistant, Wesley Life. That'll give you, so they're at the long-term care, and then over here they're moving into Pella Regional Health Center and Wesley Life, so they're getting some hours here first semester. Then second semester, their senior year, they have 200 patient care tech hours and phlebotomy lab tech 160. And then at the end of it, post high school, there's 850 hours. So remember, for the minimum for a registered apprenticeship, minimum is 144 hours of RTI and 2,000 hours of on-the-job training. So that will get you that there. So with that, we've come to the end of our presentation. We, like I said, please feel free to reach out. We've had the teacher and para webinar earlier, and we'll be been answering questions already and set up some meetings with people, and we're happy to help however we can to help scale this for your communities. So if you don't have any other questions, we will end this webinar. No questions. All right, hearing none, you're dismissed. Have a great afternoon, great weekend. Thank you guys for joining us, and please let us know how we can help. Have a great one.